So, hello then. Welcome back to another Night of the Movies podcast. I'm Spy Knight, and in these podcasts, I like talking all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, I'm reviewing Young Woman and the Sea. So, let's get into it, shall we? Young Woman and the Sea is directed by Joachim Ronning, apologies if I mispronounced that name, who is best known for directing Magnificent 2, which wasn't well received and I haven't seen that movie, and the fifth Pirates of the Caribbean film titled Salazar's Revenge in This Country, although in America it's titled Dead Men Tell No Tales, which is a far better name. However, the film I thought was pretty bad. And this film stars Daisy Ridley, who most people will know as Rey from the Star Wars sequel trilogy, alongside various other actors including Christopher Eccleston, which most people know as the Ninth Doctor Who, and Stephen Graham, who I always love to see in anything he's in. Whether I can't say words today, whether it's a TV show or movie, I always love seeing Stephen Graham and stuff. And I was looking forward to this film because I like these type of movies, these inspirational, quote-unquote, true story films that just make you feel good, you know what I mean? That are uplifting to watch and inform you on a story that you perhaps didn't know much about, because I did not know anything about this story, the story that this film is based on, before I watched it yesterday. And sure, there were some big things that happen in this movie which didn't actually happen in the true story, but at the same time it informs you on something that you didn't really know about. And I like these sort of inspirational true stories that you get with films nowadays. I like films that make you feel inspired, you know what I mean? And I also like films about swimming, because I'm a swimmer myself. I don't swim as much as I used to. I used to swim in a club back in the day, but I still do swimming every now and then. I even went swimming today, so there you go. And I like films about swimming, and not too long ago, actually it was quite a while ago now, it was last year, I think it was last November, we had the film Naiad released, which is on Netflix, and that was a great film about this 6-year-old woman who swam from Cuba to America. It was something like that. I forget off the top of my head right now, but this film looked like it was following in the footsteps of that movie. It looked like it was sort of in the same family as Naiad, and because I loved Naiad, I was excited to see another movie that was similar in its story. And so yesterday I went to go and see this film at the cinema, and the Google plot synopsis for this movie goes as follows. Through steadfast support of her older sister and trainers, Trudy Elderly, I think that's how I pronounce her name, yeah, pretty sure if I remember correctly from the movie, which I did watch yesterday, so they're pretty sure that's how I pronounce her name. Trudy Elderly, played by Daisy Ridley in this movie, overcomes adversity and the animosity of a patriarchal society to rise through the ranks of the Olympic swimming team and complete a 21-mile trek from France to England. So it's essentially about the first woman who swam the channel. That's what this movie is all about. And honestly, I thought this movie was great. Now, does it have some big problems? For sure. Is it predictable? Yes, it is so predictable that you can see story beats and emotional story beats coming from a mile away. And is some of the writing on the nose? Definitely. There were moments in the movie where I was like, yeah, you didn't actually need to say that. I got what you were getting. I got where you were going there. You didn't actually need to say it. It did feel occasionally like the film was spoon-feeding information to you. And there were some parts of the film which I don't think were the best places. Like, there's one part in the movie where you see Daisy Ridley's character, Trudy Elderly, talking to her sister about how they're always going to be together. It's something like that, and it happens at a point in the movie where it's like, why didn't you say that earlier though? It might have been more effective if you said that earlier. And there's a couple of instances like that in the film, and I do wish the film had more of an emotional punch. Now, it does have an emotional punch. I did feel uplifted coming out of the cinema. I had a spring in my step and everything like that, but I wanted more of an emotional punch from the end of the movie, and I did. it did take me a little bit of time to fully get into the film, to fully immerse myself into the story and get engaged in it and everything like that. It did take a little while to get going for me, but once the film found its groove, I thought it was swimmingly entertaining. Once the film got going, once we meet Daisy Ridley playing Trudy Elderly, because she only starts playing the lead role about 10 minutes into the film, around about that, maybe it's under 10 minutes actually, but once we get introduced to her playing the lead role, that's when the film picks up and it became swimmingly entertaining onwards. And the film is produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, and if you don't recognise that name, he has produced many famous films such as the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, the Top Gun movies, the National Treasure movies, Con Air, The Rock, Black Hawk Down, and many, many more famous movies. And I want to emphasise the word movie there, because often when you watch a Jerry Bruckheimer production, you have that feeling that it's a Jerry Bruckheimer production, you know what I mean? There's like nail-biting action sequences, it all builds to one big grand climax. There's usually a Hans Zimmer score. If Hans Zimmer's not available, there's a Hans Zimmer-like score going on, and that's exactly what you get with this movie. But that made it more fun to watch. It is such a Jerry Bruckheimer production, but I don't mean that in a bad way whatsoever. I loved the Jerry Bruckheimer production feel to the film, because this film felt like a properly British film, but with a big budget and with that Jerry Bruckheimer feel that, as far as I know, we haven't really had with a British film before. I mean, I could be very wrong there, and there's probably some big examples of British films that, films of British stories, films of, this isn't actually a British story, but it feels very much like a British story, saying that the film had this British feel to it, even so actually, that I'm thinking about it, that doesn't make any sense, because most of the film takes place in France, if I remember correctly. So, still, it didn't feel like your normal Jerry Bruckheimer production, and that's why I really liked it, because it was not what I expected. And yes, you've got the Hans Zimmer-like score going in the background, which heightens tension and those other things that Hans Zimmer scores do. And I don't know who did the score for this film, but they did a great job in making me giving me all the feels. I thought the score worked really well. I love the Jerry Bruckheimer production feel of the film, and I did think it was well directed, which is saying a lot, because the same guy who directed this also directed the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean film, which I thought was absolutely pants. That probably isn't good criticism there. I did not like the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean movie. It was the first film I fell asleep watching in the cinema. And when I heard it was him directing this movie, I was like, really? Okay. And he might have, actually, I don't know if he solely directed the 5th Pirates of the Caribbean movie, but he was one of the directors on it. But still, you get the point I'm making. I think the last movie he worked on, or one of the last movies he worked on, was Pirates of the Caribbean, Salazar's Revenge. Should have been called Dead Men Tell No Tales in this country. But I didn't like that movie. And when I heard that it was him directing this one, I was like, okay, this might not work too well. But actually, I think he did a really good job at making all the swimming believable, which sounds like an easy thing, but it's not an easy thing. There's quite a lot of sport movies I watch where I don't believe in the sport being played, or I don't care about the sport being played. And even though I'm a swimmer myself, I can imagine someone who's a non-swimmer watching this film and fully believing in all this swimming, fully believing that Daisy Ridley is playing Trudy Elderly, actually, swimming the channel. I can believe in all that, and I think the film did a good job at making it feel authentic, making me believe that Daisy Ridley as Trudy Elderly is doing all the swimming and is enjoying all this pain during the swimming, because swimming is not an easy thing to do, especially when you're swimming the channel, and at the same time enjoying all the benefits of her swimming once she's finished swimming, which the film also does a very good job of. There's moments in the movie where after Trudy Elderly, the lead role, the character in the movie, has done some swimming, she's enjoying having a meal, and that's exactly what you like doing. As soon as you finish swimming, you want to come out, or you want to eat straight away, and when you eat, the food tastes so much better. In the film, it wasn't a big thing in the movie, but there was a small thing in the film where I was like, yeah, it feels like she's really enjoying this food that she's eating after doing this big swim, and I really liked how the film focused on that a little bit, and the performances are all delightful. It feels like everybody on screen in this movie is totally invested in what they're doing and is having fun making this film. Daisy Ridley is not just Rey. I don't care what anybody said. I think Daisy Ridley is a wonderful actor. I think she proved that with the Star Wars sequels, and she proves it again here. She gives this nuanced, effective performance which constantly draws you to her, and I thought she was just wonderful in the movie. I can't wait to see what she does next. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing her return as Rey in the upcoming Rey Star Wars movie, which is being announced. But I also want to see her in more stuff like this, where she's playing roles which, well, playing against the role which I've seen her play before. And I think she plays it absolutely terrifically, and I totally believed her in the lead role. And I think she actually did some outdoor swimming, is probably a better phrase, for the lack of a better phrase. You know, I think she did actually practice doing outdoor swimming for this, and you can tell when you're watching. I totally believe doing the swimming, which again sounds like a small thing, but it's actually quite a big thing. If I didn't believe her doing the swimming, then so much of this film would fall apart, particularly the big third act of the movie where you actually see her doing the swimming. None of that would work if I didn't believe her doing the swimming, and I totally believed her doing the swimming and thought Daisy really was terrific. Chris Eccleston is great as this swim coach who gets seasick, which pretty much tells you everything you need to know about that character. Not particularly nice piece of work. Let's just say that for people who haven't seen the movie. I'm not going to go into details there, but shouldn't trust him. And Chris Eccleston plays into that very well. It was also nice seeing Chris Eccleston in something, because I haven't seen him in something in quite a while. And Stephen Graham is an absolute joy to watch in this movie. One of my small criticisms would be that I wish we had more of him in the film, because although we do get to see, although he plays quite an important and big role in the movie, he's not in it quite as much as I hoped it would be, because I heard someone before it's a movie saying, oh, Stephen Graham's great in it, and they keep hinting at his at the importance of his character in the first half of the movie, but he doesn't really come into it until the second half. But when he's in it, he's just really, really great to watch. And there's plenty of other great performances. Kim Bodner, I think that's how I pronounce it. I'm going to double check here. Yeah, Kim Bodner. Apologies if I mispronounced that name. He played one of the main roles in the series Killing Eve, and I didn't love that series, but I loved him in it. And he plays Trudy Elderly, the lead character's father in this film, and he's great in there. The one who plays Trudy's sister, Tilden Cobham Hervey, apologies if I mispronounced that name as well. She plays the sisterly role fantastically, and because the film in the end isn't just about swimming. I mean, on the surface level, that's what it's about. It's about this inspirational woman doing this inspirational, magnificent thing. It's a really great story on the surface level about someone doing a very difficult swim. But it's not, the film's not actually about that. You know, beneath the surface level, it's about family. There's loads of films out. But it's also about sisterly bond, and it's about the bond between a mother and her daughter. And I do wish the film focused on that a little bit more than it does, but it does focus on that to a fair degree. And it's about pushing through when you have all these obstacles against you and not really caring about what other people think, because that's a huge part of the film. There's a lot of people saying that because she's a woman she can't do this swim, and I really liked how the film explored all those themes. It's a really great feel-good movie that I was missing at the cinema recently. I wanted a movie like this at the cinema, and I do think it's a shame that this film is only getting a limited theatrical release. I mean, I had to travel like 90 minutes to go and see this movie at the cinema, and I'm super glad that I did. But I had to travel 90 minutes to go and see it, and it was at a time that I wasn't chuffed with. You know, I didn't love the times for this film at the cinema, and I don't love that it's not getting more of a theatrical release, because seeing it in a cinema, you know what? I'm going to say it felt like an experience, and I think the best movies at the cinema feel like an experience. And this movie felt like an experience, particularly from someone such as myself, who is a swimmer. And you know what? This film made me want to go and swim after I saw it. So that's what I did earlier today. So if parts of this podcast haven't made sense, that is why. Because when I go swimming, it does affect the way I think throughout the rest of the day. So I do apologise if parts of this podcast haven't made sense. But after seeing this movie, I want to go swimming. And what other praise, what bigger praise can I give this movie? You know, it made me want to go swimming. And it's a film about swimming, you know. So those two things go hand in hand very well. Yeah, well, I do wish it had more of an emotional punch. And yes, I was a bit deflated. That was a word. I was about to say uninflated. That's not a word. I was a bit deflated when I came out of the cinema and heard that a lot of the things which you think are too good to be true in this movie are actually too good to be true because they're all made up. I was a little deflated when I heard that was the case. But it's an inspirational film that has a wholesome feel to it, and it makes you feel good. It makes you feel uplifted, you know? And I love movies which are like this. I love inspirational films that actually make you feel inspirational, you know what I mean? Yeah. I had a great time watching this movie, and I thought it was worthwhile. I thought it was a 100% worthwhile watch. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that Young Woman in the Sea, you know what? I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah, this film might not be factually accurate and all that, but in the end, it's not a documentary. And even when you get to a documentary, there's an argument that the documentary might be biased. So, a filmed take on a true story isn't necessarily always going to be true. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if you do, but because I'm not sure how much I'm making sense because my head is all over the place right now. But I don't put it this way. What I'm trying to say is I don't care that this film might not be 100% true or even 75% true because it was so wildly entertaining and it made me smile in so many moments that I just went along with it and I had such a great time going along with it, you know? Filled me with joy and it gave me all those good feels, you know. And I do feel it is a feel-good summer movie. I wish it was in more cinemas because I would definitely recommend this. But I think by the time I reviewed this film and by the time my review's been put out, I don't think it's going to be shown in any cinemas anymore, which is a huge shame because I do feel it's worthwhile watching in a cinema. That being said, when it comes out on streaming, which I reckon is going to happen sooner rather than later, do check it out. I think it's a really, really good film. Yeah. And it's a really good film about swimming that made me want to go swimming. And that's pretty much everything I have to say about this film. Oh, and one last thing. I loved it. I loved this movie. And so, all in all, as I've already said, as I'm going to say once more in this podcast today, Young Woman and the Sea is an 8 out of 10 from me. Anyway, guys, that's it for today's podcast. If you have seen Young Woman and the Sea, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Maybe it wasn't for you, or maybe you thought it was brilliant like I did. Whatever your thoughts are on this film, please let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, all of a sudden my nose has gone really itchy, by the way. Or if you haven't yet, please click down below and like and subscribe on this podcast. I look forward to many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel. As I've already said, thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And I suppose this is it. So I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.